everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again to talk about my top 10 worst old movies that I watched in 2020. These are movies that are before the year of 2020 that I watched in 2020, if that makes sense. They range from the early 1900s to the late, 2010s era, decade, whatever the fuck. And so, yeah, let's get started. My dishonorable mentions, I only have 3, even though there's tons of movies I could talk about. It's too bad that I can't, I really would, to be honest, but I don't think anyone would care. And so I just narrowed it down to these 3 dishonorable mentions. So I got Killjoy Goes to Hell, which, it was so terrible. It just felt like they had given up on the franchise, and it just sickens me, as an aspiring filmmaker myself, when I see these movies that are so poor, and it just feels like they got all this money to just dick around and make a shitty movie. And it would have been one thing if it was like an actual horror movie that just failed, but with Killjoy Goes to Hell, they actively tried to make it into like a comedy, where it's like he's in hell, and it's just so goofy and stupid and just so like disrespectful to horror, disrespectful to film in general. It's just so cartoony and comedic. Hated it. And then also Candyman, Day of the Dead. I have not talked about that series because actually I was planning on doing like a big trilogy review before I went and saw the new movie, which I might still do this year, hopefully. But yeah, this is the 3rd movie in the Candyman series, and oh my god, it is the worst. It is literally just a ripoff of 1 and 2 combined, but it's set on Day of the Dead instead. Like the Mexican holiday, Day of the Dead. It's just so bad. It's so poor. There's nothing about it that's good except for Tony Todd himself. It's oh god. There's even like a cult of Candyman that like they resurrect him on purpose for some reason. Like it's just bad. And they completely reverse the mythology of the second movie. If you recall, in the second movie, she destroys one of his paintings, and she thinks maybe that will stop him. And then she finds out that that's not going to stop him at all. But in the 3rd movie, guess what? In the 3rd movie, that's how you kill him. Yeah, wow, good job. Great job, wow. That's such a great movie. And then you got these stupid cops in the story. You got the stupid romance shit. It's just terrible. It is a disgrace to the first, the second Candyman, because the first one I was not a fan of either. And then my last dishonorable mention is I'm Still Here. This is another movie that I look at and just, give a huge middle finger to, because you got Joaquin Phoenix, and he's basically just trolling, and it's just it's not just lazy, but it's also just so dumb. You just watch this movie and lose brain cells actively while watching it. You got no plot, you got nothing good. It was oh god. It was like shooting myself in the head a million times, and then after each time I shot myself, I'm putting myself back together and sewing myself back together, and then just shooting myself and doing the same thing over and over and over again until this pointless piece of shit movie ended. I'm Still Here, trash. My number 10 is Killjoy 5, Killjoy Psycho Circus. This is another movie that I look at and question why they were given money to make it. At this point, it is just a full-on cartoon. I mean, at one point, Killjoy goes to space and he shoots laser beams at the devil in his own spaceship. I mean, it is that stupid. And since it's so stupid, of course, you got the people who like it because it's stupid. And unfortunately, Full Moon thinks that that's a good thing. It's not. To be honest, the good thing to do would be to try to make an actual horror movie. Like the first one, like the second one, even though the second one was bad. Like the third one, even though the third one kind of had some comedy. The fifth one is the series' worst film. And it is just so poorly done, and it's just so, like, amateur and basic. And, you got, like, this stupid plot. I mean, so much of the movie revolves around his love interest, too. Which, that's another thing. I mean, let's just get off of that. I mean, Killjoy is supposed to be the star of the show, not his stupid side characters that I don't give a shit about. You know what I mean? It's just bad. My number 9 is Laser Blast. This is, I wouldn't say it's a movie where I question where they got the money, because they didn't have any money. I've seen so many great films with, like, a budget this size that makes it even worse, because it just seems like this movie was just, there's nothing good in it. Except for Roddy McDowall, who's in it for like 5 minutes. It is the most low-budget home movie type of movie. Nothing happens the whole movie. There's just these stupid explosions once in a while. There's even a part where he blows up a Star Wars billboard as if it's supposed to be some sort of a message saying that this movie is better than Star Wars. It's like, it's so stupid. And it's too bad, too, because I thought that the premise sounded like a good horror movie, where a kid finds a piece of alien equipment and then he becomes an alien, or he suffers bad effects. That sounds like a good idea on paper, but in this movie, it's just not executed well. It's full of nothing. It's a nothing movie. Number 8 is Swiss Army Man. Now, this is a movie that people love for some reason. It is such garbage. I mean, you have this low-level humor that's just through the whole movie. You have and then they mix it with, like, this stupid drama shit, with, like, this melodrama plot, and you have, like, just, God, this is such a garbage, indie crap, pretentious movie. This is just like, it's just like a movie you watch and it's like, why did they make this movie? They should have took this idea and thrown it in the trash, because there's nothing good about this movie as well. I mean, really, you got Daniel Radcliffe, terrible. You got the main guy, terrible. It's just so stupid. I mean, it's, God, I don't even have anything nice to say about it. I mean, it's supposed to be like a survival movie, and then there's like twists in it, and it's like, oh wow, this movie's so smart because it made you think this, and really there was this. And it's like, ugh, God, I hated this movie. Number 7 is Pretty in Pink. This movie pissed me off. And I'll tell you something, it is personal. Because I went to school with girls who were all like Molly Ringworm's character. There was not a single girl in my school who was like the Christy Swanson character at the very end. And so you can imagine how negative this movie is if you had that experience. And, the movie acts like it's about her and how she's this girl who's like, she's this nice girl, and she's in in conflict with herself because she's got to choose between the rich douchebag and then the nice guy. And then, who should she choose? But we all really know that she should choose the piece of shit rich guy who hangs out with bully rich guy friends. It's just such a disgusting, disgraceful movie. There's nothing good in the movie except for the nice guy. He has like a dancing scene, which was awesome. But of course, that bitch Molly Ringworm just sits there and makes this ugly face at him, like she just hates him, and just it's such a negative movie. It brought up so many bad memories, and really encapsulates the high school experience. Unfortunately, the negatives of the high school experience, and then you got the shit at the end where he gets with Christy Swanson, whose character is like, she literally just pops up in the movie like a hallucination of some kind, and it's sickening. It's a really sickening movie. It's not a happy comedic 80s comedy. It is this ugly, dark, gross movie about this bitch of a main character who I do not want to spend 2 hours with at all in a movie. My number 6 is BMX Bandits. This movie is another garbage movie. If you heard that, that's what I have to say about this movie. You got this stupid plot about these kids who like to ride around on BMX bikes, causing trouble, and they're just these goofball dumbasses, and they find a police radio, and it's just this stupid plot. The only thing good I have to say, I will say, Nicole Kidman, I actually thought she was okay in this movie. And, I like her with red hair more than I like her with that blonde hair. And, it's nice to see her when she was younger and didn't have plastic surgery. And so I think she's a positive of the movie. But the movie overall, I mean, it was hard to get through. It was just so poor and so cartoony. I mean, it was basically like a cartoon. And, you got these grown-ass men, and they're acting like 5-year-old kids, and they're just terribly unlikable. And then the villains are terrible, the plot is terrible. When I saw the title BMX Bandits, I thought this was going to be a hardcore action movie where you got these guys robbing people and stealing things and then getting away on their BMX bikes. Like, I thought it would be a really good movie, but instead it's this stupid, meandering cartoon comedy movie. Number 5 is The Virgin Suicides. This movie is just a whole pile of shit. It is a pile of nothing. This movie means nothing. It's worth nothing. I'm glad I didn't pay for it. It's about nothing. It's about 5 girls who commit suicide for no reason. And these boys are reading their diary and, they can't understand what happened. It is just so pretentious and stupid. And, of course, it was directed by Sofia Coppola, who doesn't have any talent in the directing category or the acting category. And so this is such a terrible movie. I hated it. I think it is a shit stain on the film industry. And I think that all copies of it should be destroyed. And, it was a waste of money, too. I don't know why they spent money on making this worthless movie. There's nothing in this movie that means anything. And there's just nothing to enjoy. Nothing. Number 4 is Dolomite. That stupid, shitty 1970s blaxploitation movie. This movie is meaningless shit. The acting is terrible. The plot is terrible. There's nothing funny in it. Like, people say it's like this good, bad movie. There's none of that in this movie. It is just a terrible, uh, crappily made movie. It is a disgrace to movies. And of course, it's celebrated because it's, quote, so bad it's good. Not at all. It was a chore to watch. I mean, I wanted to enjoy it. I thought I was going to enjoy it, but it was just terrible. There was nothing in it that was good, even in a funny way, and like a way where, and that's another thing too, is the fact that, like, this guy, he wanted people to think certain, he wanted people to like it. He didn't want them to laugh at it because it was made so terribly. I just, it's a garbage movie. I mean, there's really no point in even talking about it. My number third movie, the third worst movie I watched last year, was Bernie. This movie was literally a serial killer propaganda movie. There was a good part about it, which was Matthew McConaughey. He did a fantastic job in playing the only person in the movie who was a good person. It's basically a movie saying that this serial killer should be let out of prison because he's a nice guy. Well, he's not a serial killer, but I wouldn't trust him letting him out of prison. Fuck that. Keep him in prison and throw away the key. He shot this poor old woman in the back, and he shot her for no reason. And of course, the movie makes it seem like she was an abuser and like she was keeping a prisoner. That's just that's just so laughable to me. And of course, you got Jack Black, and he's doing this completely over the top performance. And of course, everyone likes the real guy because the guy in the movie is played by Jack Black. And so guess what happened because of this movie? The real life killer got released from prison. And he actually stayed in the director's garage for 6 years until he got sent back to prison. And so this movie was literally made to get a cold-blooded killer out of prison. I mean, ugh. And on top of that, it is such a depressing, just another negative movie. Like, they just, ugh. It's just, you feel gross watching it. Like, I never imagined I'd see a movie where there's this evil murderer, and the movie makers want to make him look like he's a good person who's just, he was a good guy. And we're going to make all these jokes and have all these subliminal things. And we're going to have Shirley MacLaine, because, apparently she's a bitch in real life at this age. And, we're going to do all these tricks to make an actual killer look like a good person. I hate that. That is sickening. That's even worse than all the feminazi propaganda that we see in movies nowadays. Serial killer propaganda. My number 2 worst movie of the year was Book of Blood. And now, this movie comes with personal stuff too, which I won't get into. But Book of Blood was just another movie where I question why it was allowed to be made. The story is like this 50 Shades of Grey fantasy, old woman's fantasy about effing a young guy, and friend zoning this other guy who's her age, and it's such a gross, stupid, dark. There's no point to it. I mean, it's like a ghost story, but then they undermine that and they try to do this stupid twist where it's like, oh, look, this movie's smarter than you, so we did this twist, and there's not really any ghost. Oh, but there actually is. And then they do this, and then they do that. And it basically becomes about this stupid romance between these characters who are not likable. You got this old woman, she's like this old hag, And then you got this young guy with this Justin Bieber haircut, and he's basically a boy toy. And it is just the stupidest shit I've ever seen. I wished I'd never have watched it. I had never watched it. I wished it would be thrown in the trash with all the other copies of it. I mean, it's so bad that it's put in, like, you know, those packs of 5 horror movies. You want to buy 5 horror movies that are really good? Wink, wink. Book of Blood will be on there. That's how bad it is. And my number one worst old movie of last year that I watched was what was it called? Grizzly Man? Ugh. This movie takes the depression to a whole new level. You know, you got this story about this guy who wanted to be an actor, and he did not get this part, and so he ended up just going to study bears. And it is so ugly and dark. They spend like an hour talking about, in detail, how he got killed by a bear. And they expect you to like bears after this movie. Fuck bears, man. Fuck bears. This movie makes you hate bears. And then, you know, you got this guy who supposedly, quote, loves bears. And there's a part in the movie where he literally sits there and watches these piece of shit hunters stone a bear to death. It is... Ugh. This movie should not have been made. Of course, it was made using footage that this piece of shit shot. And then, of course, he runs away and he doesn't do anything about it. Because, quote, they have guns. What a piece of shit human being. Because they have guns. You know, this movie is just, it is so darkly depressing. It's basically a horror movie, and it is so dreary and broody, and it's not a movie that you want to watch. And I wish I had never watched it because it is just the worst. And to even make it worse, I was expecting like an adventure film when I watched it, and I know that sounds crazy, but I was mistaking this movie with The Bear. If you've ever seen that adventure movie. So I thought this would be like a lighthearted adventure. And then I watched it, and it's just, and then you got the narrator, and he's got this like evil voice, like a sinister sex predator type of voice, and he's saying like, and now this guy, he did this, and then this led to this, and then more people got killed. Like it's just a slog of a movie, and you know, no one needs to watch it. I mean, they wouldn't even play the audio of him getting killed. I mean, that's the only reason people will want to watch this movie, and they don't even play it, but they still go on for 50 minutes about how he was killed in detail, and ugh, what a depressing movie. So yeah, that was my top 10 worst old movies I watched in the year of 2020. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.